Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Param Vishwaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sachiguru Pranatoshmaham Om. Okay, we are beginning chapter 6, verse 38. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
Seems right.
In the illustration, the idea of this and the idea of silver are not identical. Similarly, in the human personality, the idea of self and the idea of I, the ego, are not identical. In both, there is a common element and also a variable element. Okay. It's interesting to see that the teachings of Vedanta are somewhat so similar one to another. It's just this slight different angle we look into things. But fundamentally, the teachings are not many, you know. So we know that we have the ahamkara, the ego, and we have the atma, the self, and they appear to be identical, but they are not really identical. So there is a common element in both, but there is something that differs one from the other. No?
Arlindo, you are dropping out just a little bit.
Oh, gee. I have a potential good news about that. We may find a better home for Sylvia in the town nearby here, in which there may be more space, and I may be going there to spend the weekend because I'm having more and more problems with my class in the weekend in Portuguese language. And then I may go there to do my class of Saturday, Sunday, and then I stay there to do our Monday. And there the internet is very fast. Did it get better now?
Still dropping out. Just losing a word here and there.
It's interesting because it did not give me any note that the internet was unstable. Let me try to change my provider. If it does not get better, I'm going to remove my video. And the internet company, they say that they have in project to bring the cables here to where I am. I live in a small little thing with 200 people. And they may bring the cable all the way here rather than having this radio signal that comes from a mountain down. Okay, the other has no internet. I'm back where I was. So if am I still breaking?
For me, there's a little hesitation is experiencing.
See if it gets better now.
Yeah. Missing words here and there.
So let's try now. Okay, this is the end of the monsoon here. Sometimes it's now raining here, but I can see there are very hard, dark clouds all around, so it may be blocking the signal from down there. Can you hear me better now?
To tell.
Okay, we gotta go, okay? So if some words are missing, so you have to fill in. Like in a test. We are talking about the D's, the idea of D's, yeah? The D's and the idea of silver, yeah? So the Samanya and the Vishesha, the specific aspect of something and the general factor or part, yeah? So the idea of D's and the idea of silver, they are not identical, okay? So one is the isness, existence of something which is not clearly perceived, and the other is it is a projection. Silver is a projection on the shell. Similarly, in the human personality, the idea of the self and the idea of the ego are not the same. They are not identical. In both, there is a common element and a variable element. So I was saying that the teachings are very similar. You know, it points to the fact that every human being is a mixture of Atma and Ahamkara. Yeah? We have the ego and we have Ahamkara. We have the ego and we have Atma, Brahman. So the self is in there, but then the I am, which is the ego, yeah, comes in. The I am depends on Brahman, depends on the Atma. The Atma does not depend; it's independent of Aham, and this Ahamkara is a mixture of both. Yeah? They seem to be identical because both share certain aspects to itself. Both share existence aspect and consciousness aspect. Okay, so the Atma is a self-existence, non-experience, limitless entity, and the Jiva Atma, it is a existing conscious entity, experience entity, which is not limitless at all. Yeah? So one is it's although it's still sharing similar parts or aspects of Atma, the Ahamkara does not share the limitless nature as we have established in our last class. The limitless nature is what makes the distinction between the Ahamkara and the Chit, yeah? and the Atma. Yeah? So we have a common element and we have variable element. Vidyaranya gives an example in support. No, my page changed here. When we say that this is a shell or this is silver, yeah, even though we experience it as one cognition, one single cognition, either we say this is shell or this is silver, it's one single cognition. One is the cognition of Samanya, and the other is the cognition of Vishesha. Vishesha may be right knowledge or wrong knowledge. Okay, if it is right knowledge, I'm just perceiving the Vyavaharika as it is. Okay, but if it is wrong knowledge, I'm not perceiving Vyavaharika as it is. I'm projecting my Pratibhasika projection, yeah? My superimposition of silverness, or coinness, or silver. Are you listening? Are you hearing to me, Lynn?
Yes, I hear, but it's still dropping quite a few words.
But
But we have,
it's understandable.
so.
So this is one cognition. The cognition appears as one single unity, but it's a combination of two. So one is Anyana Kale, the part. Now, Kale is knowledge. Anyana, one is ignorance, okay, is wrong knowledge. And the other is good knowledge, Yana knowledge, okay? So we have Kale. Kale actually goes for a moment of time. One is happening on the time of ignorance, and the other is happening on the time of knowledge. So it's one cognition, but in any case, it's a combination of two things. One is the isness of something, and the other is the characteristics or the namarupa or the specifics of what I'm seeing. So one is Anyana Kale, the other is Yana Kale, time of knowledge. Anyana Kale is in the time of knowledge, in the time of ignorance, Anyana Kale, it is this is silver. There is what? There is Samanya Amsa, there is a generalized support, background, existence of something there. This is the part, is the isness part, is the, and this is, and silver is the Vishesha Amsa, is the specific projection that we have superimposed on the existence. So we have two parts, the combination of two aspects. In Jesus' shell also, there is Samanya Amsa. When we say Jesus is a shell, Jesus is a snake, there is both. There is Samanya. Samanya is right because it is the isness. There is something there within Vyavaharika, which is the existence of an object, which is properly perceived as Samanya Amsa, a ground of isness, supporting, okay, of something that is there, although not quite correctly perceived. So we have these two things. When we say this is shell, we are getting the Samanya Amsa, the part which is the generalized existence of something, and the specific Amsa, particular Vishesha, that we say, oh, this is a snake, or this is a coin, a silver coin. When we do our self-inquiry, we find during the time of knowledge, Yana Kala, that both Samanya Amsa and Vishesha Amsa have the same order of reality. So now this is interesting, this analysis here, because it is the same order of reality, but we need to understand the context here. Let's go slowly. We find on inquiry that during the investigation, Yanakala time of investigation, both the generalized part and the specific part have the same order of reality. When we say Jesus is silver, Jesus is Vyavaharika. No, in time of knowledge is when you see the shell as a shell, okay? And then at the time of knowledge, in Yanakala, the time of knowledge, of proper perception, we have the Samanya Amsa, the aspect generalized, and the specific Vishesha Amsa, that they belong to the same order of reality, okay? So now when we talk about the order of reality, in absolute terms, we would say that both are mithya, because anything that can be perceived through the eyes or the other for sense, okay, is mithya. Only satya, only the knower is satya. So here, in relative terms, the author or Swamiji or Shankaracharya says that at the time of knowledge, we have the perception of Samanya part and Vishesha, and both belong to the same order of reality, okay? And then he says, this same order of reality is Vyavaharika Satya, okay? Vyavaharika Satya, it is what? Is the projection of Maheshwara. There is a Namarupa there is a configuration of the elements there, and we perceive it as a samanya, a generalized presence of something, and then we perceive it correct as the shell or as the rope. In that case, Vyavaharika Satya, okay? And the shell also is Vyavaharika Satya. They belong to the same order of reality. During what? During the Yana Kala, the time of proper perception, proper understanding, no? And then he says, it is Satya, Satya joined together. It means to say, it is Vyavaharika, Vyavaharika, okay? So because the isness of something happens within Vyavaharika, which is not really Satya, it is Mithya, but it is a Mithya, a good Mithya, in the sense that it's a projection of Maheshwara, in which we perceive it in its general existence or isness, and then we perceive it as well as a configuration of name and form, Namarupa, okay? So, and then again, this is Vyavaharika Satya, okay? Both, okay? It's Satya Satya, as he says, joined together. We perceive clearly that there is something in that we are seeing the Vyavaharika, and we perceive the shell as the shell, the rope as a rope. So what it's saying here is that there is only Vyavaharika Satya. Then he presents it as Satya Satya, meaning to say there is no Pratibhasika, there is no secondary projection by the human intellect. Okay? It is Vyavaharika Satya, and that is also Vyavaharika Satya. And therefore, we say this is right knowledge when we see that the generalized aspect of something as identical and equal without human superimposition as the Vyavaharika Satya name and form of something. This is right knowledge. We see the rope and we make no mistake, we see the rope. We see the shell, we make no mistake, we see the shell. We see something appearing similarly to a shell, and we come to the conclusion it is a shell. We know with no room for mistake. Okay, so what is right knowledge? Is perceived, it is combined by two perceptions. One is a sensorial perception that there is something in there, and the other is intellectual perception that this is a rope, this is a shell. Okay, so there is one perception that comes through the sense. There is a perception that there is something in there, but we know that is Vyavaharika. I did not put it there. Okay, and then I go with my intellect, and then I properly perceive it as a rope. I properly perceive it as what? As a shell. Okay, this is called right knowledge. Your intellectual perception of something is faithful to what it is, to its original projection by Maheshwara. So, because as we know, the intellect of the mind is going to integrate these perceptions, okay? Perception by themselves, they produce a lot of misknowledge or wrong knowledge. There are infinity of examples. One of them is the sky is blue. So sky is blue is a perceptive knowledge that needs to be correct intellectually by use of inference, okay? So right knowledge, what is right knowledge? Is the perception, sensorial perception, and the intellectual accession in regards to that perception. They are the same, okay? So I got it, there is something, and this something I intellectually define as a rope, not as a snake. So On the other hand, in Anyana Kala, in the time of ignorance, we find the generalized amsa, samanya amsa, yeah, the part which is the presence of something is there. How do I know that? By perception and perception alone. I hear, okay, I see, I smell. So by perception, I get a generalized part of something that is nearby, present, okay? So this, when in the time of ignorance, when we perceive something, this thing that we perceived is Vyavaharika Satya. We are perceiving something that belongs to Maheshwara. Maheshwara have put it there, okay? Now me, so I perceive something that belongs to Vyavaharika. But once I say this is a snake, once I say that this is silver, okay? And then I'm bringing in what? I'm bringing you in my mistake, my projection, my superimposition of silver on the shell, superimposition of the snake on the rope, okay? So now I have two aspects. Everything that I know and my knowledge is faithful to what the object is. We can say, let me see, Silva is calling me here. Ganga. Are you still, can you hear me? Nobody can hear me? Can you hear me? Silva saying that she does not hear me since more than a minute. How about you?
Yeah, I can hear you, Arlindo, but you are broken up. It's missing words.
So is it make any sense?
More or less I can follow.
Yeah, it's making sense to me as well.
Okay. Sylvia, maybe it was something with you because they have been listening to what I'm saying.
You are breaking up quite a bit, though.
Okay.
Okay. I may have to go to the small apartment of Sylvia if things continue this way because it's frustrating. Okay, let's go back here. Now, so at the time of Anyana, yeah, at the time of ignorance, yeah, we have the perception of something, and that perception is the perception of some samanya amsa, which is vyavaharika. Yeah? And then when I project something, my mental projection is I create a false entity. And the pratibhasika creates a false object, which is the silver. In Anyana Kalam, samanya amsa and is satya, and vishesha amsa is mithya, okay? Here it says in Anyana Kalam, Samanya Amsa is Satya, and Vishesha Amsa is Mithya. I think it's wrong there. It says Vishesha Satya. Right? So the bottom line here, we understood. Yeah? When we have wrong knowledge, we are seeing, we have a right perception of something which belongs to Pratibhasika, but we are projecting our, it belongs to Vyavaharika, but we project our Pratibhasika And then Pratibhasika, in this sense, belongs to Mitya. I don't understand why my thing here keeps changing. Okay. In Anyana Kala, we find Samanya, and this is Vyavaharika Satya, but when we say silver, silver is Pratibhasika, which means it's not, it's only a mental projection, it is a false entity. In Anyana Kala, Samanya Amsa is Satya, and Vishesha Satya, Vishesha Amsa is Mitya. From Anyana, you come to Yanam. Samanya Amsa is not negated. From Anyana, you come to Anyana. Let's see what he's trying to say with that. From Anyana, you come to Yana. Samanya Amsa is not negated. And only Vishesha Amsa is negated, or silver part is negated. Okay. Moving from ignorance to knowledge, we cannot remove Samanya Amsa because it is the existence, the isness of something there. We don't remove that. Without that, we cannot get right knowledge. And then we remove the mistaken apprehension, the Vishesha Amsa, and then we have the right knowledge, which is the shellness rather than silverness. The new lesson here is that during Anyana Kala, there is a mixing up of Samanya Amsa and Vishesha Amsa, of which Samanya Amsa is Satya and Vishesha Amsa is Mitya. Okay, now he is explaining within this context, he calls the Samanya aspect the general presence of something, which is Vyavaharika. Yeah? We call that Satya. And when we superimpose something within the context of Pratibhasika Satya, within the context of Pratibhasika Satya, okay, this superimposition of the human intellect is called Mitya, okay? So I'm trying to contextualize so that we don't have any confusion. So we have Pratibhasika Satya. Within Pratibhasika Satya, we human beings, we can misapprehend the Pratibhasika, and then we create a second layer of Mitya, which is purely mentally projected by us. Okay, so this is double Mitya, let's say, and compared to the Pratibhasika is Satya, and my projection is Mitya. That's the bottom line here. We have mixed up Satya and Mitya within the Pratibhasika, what is real and what is a mental projection. But in Pratibhasika, nothing is real, absolutely real, no. At the time of ignorance, it's called adhyasa. So what is adhyasa? Adhyasa is a misperception or miscomprehension of something. I perceive it, but then I don't comprehend it as it is, okay? And then the thought, the conclusion, the idea I have of that object is not faithful to the object, okay? This is called adhyasa, okay? This happens at the time of ignorance, anyana. In anyana kala, in times of ignorance, it's also muta nikaran is there. Also, mutinikaranam is there. So mutinikaran, a pair of formation. So now he's going to bring another concept here, which is the pair of formation, okay? So at the time of ignorance, Yanakala, in the time of knowledge, I don't know, I mean, I'm having so many challenges. My page here keeps jumping, and I have to go back looking for where it was before. Never did that before. Okay. At the time of ignorance, it's called adhyasa. Yeah? And then in Yanakala, we have something, this happened at the time of Anyana. In Yanakala is also, there is also a pair of, it's described as a pair of formation of pairs here. So we're going to understand what this formation of pairs is. So at the time of ignorance, there is a formation of pairs there, the fundamental presence of something, and the definition of what it is that can be faithful to what it is or unfaithful in the case of mithya or my mithya superimposition, my pratibhasika superimposition. Okay, at the time of ignorance, we call this anyana or adhyasa. In jnana kala, also we have mito nikaranam, which is a pair formation. But in jnana kala, vishesha, samana vishesha, amsa, mutkaram, both are satya. So we have pair of formation, meaning to say, when I'm in ignorance, I have a pair of formation there. I have satya, which is the presence of something there, and then I have mithya, which is my wrong perception, my wrong comprehension, and then there is there a formation, a pair formation of what he called satya and mithya. Okay, a perception of the amsa aspect, generalized aspect, and then the mistaken regards to the details of what it is. Okay, there is a pair formation. Then the bottom line here, at the time of knowledge, okay, at the time of knowledge, this pair of formation disappears. Why? Because both become satya. Okay, the existence of something, and then when I see this is a rope, and then this is also satya within this analysis in reference to this. So in the case of Yanakala, there is only satya, both are satya. Shell is satya, yeah? Shell is satya, and the isness of the shell is satya, meaning to say it's both vyavaharika satya. In Anyana, yeah, there is satya mithya, and this is adhyasa. This So this topic, Adi Shankara tells, unfolds in the Brahma Sutra. Therefore, the whole world lives in adhyasa, he says. The entire world lives in adhyasa. So meaning to say what? That everybody is missing out on Jesus Christ. Everybody is missing out on seeing clearly what this isness of the Jivatma is. The whole entire world is missing out on seeing this fundamental knowledge, understanding, cognition of oneself, from the standpoint of true knowledge. In the case of the original, whenever you say I, myself, there is I, there is the self, I, there is myself, the self is there, and there is I, the ahamkara. So there is a mixture of samanya and vishesha. Self is samanya, and the I is the ahamkara, the ego. Yeah? The self is kutastha. Yeah? And the ego, the ahamkara, is the I. Yeah? you yourself, he, she, it. What a challenging class this one. My page keeps jumping here, and it never happened before. Let's go on. So did you understand? Ah, he jumped again. Now, there is a mistake with my computer. My mouse is not working. The things are moving here. And I don't know what to say. Let me try something here quickly. Vidyaranya is analyzing the mechanism of superimposition by introducing two parts in every cognition or perception. There are two parts. One is the general part and the other the specific part. When I say this is a man, this is a table, this is a chair, this is part is the generalized Samanya part. And when I say this is a book or a woman, a man, that is the Vishesha part. All the time, at the time of right knowledge, the Samanya Amsa and the Vishesha Amsa are real. At the time of right knowledge, both are real. Huh? As both are clearly perceived by whatsoever pramana we have. Okay? And here I have added some commentaries on top of this. He said that both are perceived by the pramana, meaning to say the eyes, now, and the eyes plus the intellect. So the eyes are perceiving something, and the intellect needs to know better, because when we come to self-knowledge, the discrimination and understand that the I is the invisible self. Okay, the Atma is the invisible self, and the ego is the body-mind complex. The eyes can capture the body-mind complex. The five senses can sense the mind-body complex. But only the intellect, with the help of the scriptures, can really understand I am not the Ahamkara. I am the invisible, the most subtle, the subtle, which is Atma. Okay, so we have this cognition that becomes difficult when we bring it back to self-ignorance and self-knowledge. At the time of right knowledge, the Samanya Amsa and the Visesa Amsa are real, as both are clearly perceived by the sense and the intellect. Therefore, both Samanya and Vishesha are valid. Okay, so in the case of physical material objects, we have the five senses, and that will do the job, provided we have what? Enough light. When we are in twilight, we see things, but we don't see clearly, and then we may make mistakes. And the light is a symbol of Vedanta, because it is the knowledge revealed by Ishvara that allows us to clearly see knowledge that reveals the true nature of the self as Atma, the true nature of the Ahamkara as Atma. So, but in the case of physical material objects, we have the Samanya and Vishesha, and we perceive through the five senses, and both of them are correct knowledge. So my perception of the Nama Rupa of something is faithful to that something. But at the time of erroneous perception, or misconception. Misconception is much better. At the time of erroneous perception or misconception, which is a superimposition, you take your perception is compromised by lack of light or excess of rajas and tamas, and then you create a conceptualization that is erroneous, a mixed conceptualization. At that moment, there is also the two pairs, okay? There are two, the Amsa, Samanya, and the Vishesha part. So at the time of misconception, the two parts are still there, okay? One is the isness of something, and the other is the superimposition. But we make the statement, this is the snake. So this is part is the Samanya, and the snake is Vishesha Amsa. Yeah? So he's analyzing more in details the superimposition. Now, the Samanya Amsa is real because it is properly grasped by the senses, and it is valid perception. So the perceptions we have, even in twilight, is going to allow us to identify that there is something there, okay? So even if there is almost no light, you can hear, you can smell, you can have other the sense organs. No? So there will be a perception there, a valid perception, the general aspect of something. So the Samanya is real because it is properly grasped by perception. It happens to be real even during erroneous cognition, meaning to say, so now the perception is right, okay? But then it's still right, the Samanya aspect, the isness of it is still there. But then there is a superimposition, erroneous recognition of the rope as a snake. The Samanya Amsa is real during, right, as also at the time of wrong cognition. So meaning to say the Samanya is there, it's correct, okay, at the level of Samanya, and even at the level of Vishesha, Samanya is still there because Samanya is the supporting ground on which the misapprehension or superimposition occurs. The wrong cognition is going to come, Samanya is still there, okay? Even during the wrong cognition, Samanya is perceived. It's perceived by the five senses, okay? It is valid, it's real knowledge, there is something there. The Samanya is never negated, but during the erroneous perception, the Vishesha Amsa is not right cognition. So when we make our mistakes, we are apprehending something right, but then the specifics of what we apprehend is wrong recognition, okay? So every time we refer or believe ourselves to be the body-mind complex, we are perceiving something correctly, which is my conscious existence. But then once I attribute the characteristics of the body-mind, the specific of the body-mind, on that conscious existence, and then I have wrong, erroneous cognition, okay? So I have right cognition and wrong cognition. Right cognition, once we come to Vedanta, the right cognition is, I know that I am, and I know that I am conscious. So therefore, I know that I am. So I am a conscious existing entity, but then I don't get the fact of my limitless nature. And then I take myself to be the body-mind. So there are erroneous knowledge together with righteous knowledge, okay? The snakeness is not valid knowledge because in semi-darkness, because of lack of light, lack of sattvaguna, and because of a snake vasana, fear, okay? With every superimposition, every one of our pratibhasika projections is based on our vasanas. So when we project a snake, it's because we have a vasana of fear for snake, okay? So, and then there is an invalid cognition which is the Vishesha Amsa, and it's unreal. And it occurs every time our Pratibhasika come into the play of cognition, okay? So therefore, during the right cognition, Samanya Amsa is real and Vishesha Amsa is also real. And the two real pairs are together, okay? The Amsa and Vishesha, they are there, and then they are harmonious, they are faithful, you know? I mean, what I see is faithful to the isness of something there, and then the specific was properly apprehended, okay? So they are together in reality within Pratibhasika, okay? During the wrong cognition, though, the Samanya Amsa is real, but Vishesha Amsa is unreal. It's a projection. It's my projection. We should not say that both are real or both are unreal. That's interesting. We should not say that both are real, okay? Because there is always one that is real, and that is the Amsa, okay? So the Amsa is always real. So there are only two possibilities. The generalized existence of something is real, and then the perceived Vishesha aspect of that something is faithful to the nature of that object, and then both are real. So the possibility of both are real is there. The possibility of both are real is never possible, because at least the isness of something appears as reality within Vyavaharika, relatively within Vyavaharika. What is the reality? What is the reality of the snake? When we say in analogy, is the rope. But we cannot say when we look into these teachings, they say, oh, but the rope is not reality because it's an object. In analogy, relatively, okay, the reality of the snake is rope. Okay, we can never say that the snake is unreal and the rope is unreal, because it does not serve the purpose to illustrate this analysis of superimposition. Okay, so superimposition, we know Ishvara Maya produced superimposition, but now we see the Vyavaharika, we are trying to understand our superimposition. The Jiva Atma superimposition that creates so much trouble for us. So the key here is that our perception of reality is as faithful as possible to what this apparent reality is. It's an apparent reality. It's projected by Maheshwara, okay? But we want to be able to read things for what they are, rather than being missing out and superimposing most of the time, and creating a lot of conflict and difficulties. This is the bottom line. So there is, we can never say that both are unreal. Both can be real, the Amsa and the Vishesha, and then one can be real and the other can be unreal, meaning to say my superimposition is wrong, okay? But the existence of something is real within the Pratibhasika, within Mithya. And now, it is the mixing up of real and unreal parts that brings us trouble. If both of them are Satya, Amsas, if both of them are Satya within Vyavaharika, it's called what? Good knowledge, okay? And if one is Satya and the other is Mithya, it is Adhyasa, a wrong knowledge, okay? If both are Mithya, we say that such a thing is impossible. It means to say if both are wrong, it is impossible, because at least the base has to be there, okay? Something must be there so that I can superimpose some Vishesha attributes or qualities for something. If we say that both are unreal, we are making a mistake. It is an impossibility within the context of this teaching. It is asambhava. Let me see if Lynn brought this asambhava here. Yeah. non-existent. Sambhava is something that does not exist. Okay? Both are real, or one is real and the other is unreal. It is Satya Amta performation. And once we understand this, we should ask the question, which is Satya and which is Mithya? Samanya Satya and Vishesha Amsas are mixed together. So we have the generalized existence of something, and we have the specifics, the Namarupas of something. They are mixed together, okay? And we have to bring these teachings all the time to the analogy of our human experience. We have the attributes and characteristics of our body-mind superimposed on our nature as consciousness. Both are mixed together. Huh? We have to, and the ultimate purpose of this teaching is to discriminate what is Satya and what is Mithya, because they are mixed together, okay? So there is the general, the ground, yeah? the foundational ground in which the body-mind is superimposed. That is there. That is Satya. Yeah? And what is Mithya? The Ahamkara, the attributes of the body-mind complex, okay? So they are mixed together, we miss out on that, and we superimpose the body-mind on the conscious existence of I Brahman, okay? We superimpose nakedness or silverness in the rope and in the shell. In the case of mirage water, water is the superimposed part, yeah? And in the dream I is the superimposed part. When you say, I myself wrote this letter, I myself sit here, etc., there are also these erroneous perception. Once it is a statement, I myself am sitting here, is erroneous perception, which is Satya and which is Mithya. Here, self is Satya and the ego, I, the body-mind, is Mithya. The word I refer to, Chidabhasa, is Mithya. It's the Vishesha Amsa, the specific, the attributes of the body-mind complex. We can say it is finite entity. Yes, it is finite. Everything that is defined by attributes is finite by nature. It's time-bound by nature. It is the Ahamkara. That self, but the self part is the Samanya Amsa. It refers to Chit and not Chidabhasa. Now we look at it as Chit and Chitabhasa. So it refers to consciousness and not reflect consciousness. Reflect consciousness, once identified as the body-mind complex, is limited, okay? Is the Ahamkara, is finite. But the Chit aspect of the Chitabhasa is Satya. Another name is the original consciousness, or Adhyastana, as we have seen in the previous verse. Similarly, when I say you yourself sit here, you refers to the Chitabhasa, you. Yeah? A certain name for a certain body. You yourself, okay? So I'm pointing out to the fact that there is a self there and there is a you. You refers to the attributes of the body-mind, and yourself, the self, refers to the Samanya Amsa, the foundational ground, the Brahman aspect, conscious aspect. Since we have mixed up Satya, Samanya Amsa and Vishesha Amsa, we have problems with right perception. We often get erroneous perception. Then, if you ask, what is Satya, Vishesha Amsa? What is Satya, Vishesha Amsa? Ropeness is Satya, Vishesha Amsa. So, as we said, we can have reality is reality. So what is Satya, which is real, in terms of a specific part? So the ropeness is Satya Vishesha Amsa. Yeah? So ropeness is reality we see in the context of this analogy. Ropeness is truth. No? The snake is the false, is unreal. In the case of self-knowledge, what would be the Satya Vishesha Amsa? Okay? Self is. To make it right knowledge, you should not say I. You should, you, he, she, you should say either Kutastha is or Brahman is. Okay? And that will become Satya Vishesha Amsa, which is covered during Anyana. So these are words, we need to understand all these words, because here we are excluding the word I. Okay? We are giving a connotation of ahamkara, ego, falsehood to the word I, as we have seen already before in the previous verse. Okay? When we say I, we refer to the ahamkara. Okay? I, myself, the self refers to my true self. And then what is the Satya Vishesha part when I say I, myself? Self is the reality. And I goes to the ahamkara. Then to make it right knowledge, I should be careful with my words. And I should never say I, which is something in other texts we say, don't try to do that. Just resolve this problem with knowledge intellectually. Because he says, don't say the word I. Don't say you, she. You should say the word Kutastha or Brahman. So, but if we go around say I, Brahman, I, Kutastha, we're going to be embarrassing ourselves. Okay? So that would be the right words to apply. Satya Vishesha Amsa is covered, and it's covered by the I, the ahamkara, the ego. This Vidyaranya has struggles. Here he used the word struggles. I say this Vidyaranya has a hard time to convey. Self is real and the ego is unreal. The ego refers to ahamkara, or the reflected consciousness. Okay? So this Vidyaranya struggles, meaning to say, I believe, has a hard time to convey this point here. Why? Because we are so used to use the word I, and we need to understand that the I refers to the self, not to the ahamkara. Can I finish this paragraph? Can you hear me so far?
We can hear, it's just very choppy.
Okay, then let's stop here. I'm tired. It has been challenging today. Now again, it's my computer is giving me trouble. I'm gonna see what's happening here, and we meet again next Monday. Okay, I will see. Maybe I'm going to do the next class from Silva's apartment, and then we won't have this problem. Anything else from you guys?
I was thinking about this whole time where the difference, discriminating these different Vishesha, what's real and what's not. It's very helpful when we think back and we were looking at the external meditation and the that just the stripping away the name and form that you do in the first, in the underlying nature, like the Kutastha, and then to the Chit. It reminds me all the time about those two meditations.
Yeah, very much so. Well said. we cannot help, but we need to use this word I. It's just a question of knowing what the true I refers to, you know. But anyhow, anything from you, Mark, Sylvia? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, my friends. We meet again next Monday. Today is Thursday, yeah. Next Monday, okay? Shwara allowing. Willing. Namaste.
Okay, thank you, Arlinda. Bye now.